Reppin' Philly ain't a choice. It's a way of life. PhillyGoat.com is your one-stop shop for Philly pride. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off. Look fresh, stay Philly, Philly Goat. Go Birds. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for November 11th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast of Victory Tuesday. More on that in a minute. But first, it is Tuesday. That means it's time for a little bit of motivation / positivity, brought to you as always by the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. Go to theclashingconferences.com. Check out what they have to offer, how you can join, and come on over and have some fun. All right, today we're going to switch gears slightly and do it a little differently. And mostly today is going to be a mental health awareness check. And really just know that it's okay to not be okay. Last week, Marshawn Kneeland took his own life. Defensive player for the Cowboys. Was coming off a game in which he scored a touchdown. And truthfully, it was just a tough reminder that mental health matters. You never know what somebody's going through, what is in someone's head. They might appear good to go and feel like everything is going perfect on the outside, but inside, you just never know. And we spend every day talking about Philly sports and toughness and our teams, and we'll get into how tough the defense was last night. But toughness is also having the courage to admit that you're struggling, having the courage to admit that you're not okay, or you need some help, or things are just not going the way you want it. And for me, today's takeaway is simple. I usually like to let you go with something to take throughout your weeks. But this one, don't let it stop at the end of this week. Continue to do this and just take a minute every now and then. Check in with your friends, check in with your family, check in with yourself. Ask everyone, are you okay? Ask yourself if you're okay. Ask yourself, ask someone else, how are you really feeling? What emotions did you possibly miss that are just simmering below the surface? And if you're the one asking someone if they're okay, commit to listening without judgment. Ask questions, be an active listener. And if you're the one being asked if you're okay, have the courage to be honest. There's no shame in saying, you know what, I'm not having a good day, or I've been really struggling lately. And if you happen to be, nobody's coming to ask you if you're okay and you are struggling, reach out to someone, your friends, your family, coworkers. Hell, you're listening right now, reach out to me. I'll listen. I'll help you out. I'll guide you where you are. And if you are struggling and you're to the point where you're having those very, very negative thoughts, call or text 988, the suicide prevention hotline, because at the end of the day, we've all had bad stretches. We've all been feeling down, and whether you openly admit it or you're not, I'm very open that I have bad stretches. I still semi-regularly talk to a therapist. And it really, really helps. Don't have that courage. Don't be afraid to reach out and speak to someone, because the more we talk about it, the more we know we don't have to face it alone. The more we know that other people are going through the same things you're going through. So let's just keep supporting each other. And especially for males, it's not easy. It's still somewhat, I think the narrative is shifting slightly, but it's still somewhat looked down upon to have feelings, to have emotions and everything. But I'm here to tell you, it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to need to talk to someone. It's okay to tell someone that, you know what, I'm struggling. I just need to work through this or talk through it. And that to me is the ultimate courage. The most important wins, obviously the Eagles won yesterday. That's great. But at the end of the day, that's secondary. It's not what shows up in the newspaper or what we talk about here on the podcast. It happens when there's moments of kindness, understanding, compassion, and empathy. So just know today and every day, I hope this is one that you take more than just for this week. Just know that it's okay to not be okay. And if you're not okay, reach out, talk to someone. And if you are in a good spot, ask someone if they're okay. If you notice someone's a little off, don't be afraid to ask, "Hey man, what's going on?" Or "Are you okay? What's the deal? How can I help you?" Because mental health awareness is huge. It's something that we need to bring to the forefront and make it okay to talk about. So that is Tuesday's motivation. Hopefully you take a lot more than just this week out of that, but just know it's okay to not be okay. All right, so let's get into the game. And as I always do, I'm going to do this. I jot down notes during the game. And this is not I didn't watch any of the post-game interviews or anything like that. Actually, I'm lying. I watched one. I did see A.J. Brown's, and I'll get into that. But it was an ugly one. But it's an NFC, one of the top teams in the NFC, on the road, hostile environment, first real true weather game as far as the cold of the season. And they did it, 10-3. It was a tough, hard-fought win. Points were obviously very hard to come by, but that's a good football team. That is a good defense. I know they gave up 40 to the Cowboys, but they have improved greatly since then. And that was a tough game. Like, that was probably one of the most entertaining games that I have seen. And if you're a YouTube TV subscriber and did not get to watch the game, I apologize, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to kind of give you a recap of the game through my eyes. But again, very tough, good defense. And let's start there with the defense. The Eagles defense was outstanding. I mean, the combination of Jalen Phillips and Nolan Smith on the pass rush was just phenomenal. Jalen Hunt has really come into his own. Remember, this is only his second year in the league, and he was drafted as a project. And he is a contributor. And all of a sudden, one of those question marks we had on the defense almost is kind of a strength of this team, with Nolan Smith being back, with the addition of Jalen Phillips, with the emergence of Jalen Hunt. You have the veteran leadership of Brandon Graham. I like it. I mean, they look good. They put pressure all. And granted, I'll give you that Green Bay's offensive line was banged up, but they played phenomenal. They kept Jordan Love under pressure most of the night. They did a solid job up front of stuffing the run. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter were disruptors in there. Overall, Quinyon had a pretty good game. Cooper, not maybe his best. Adoree Jackson, that quarterback 2 spot is still... Michael Carter didn't play much. Jair Alexander didn't go. So hopefully they'll be back and ready to play, because I feel like that is the recurring theme of this defense is cornerback 2. And when they play some better receivers like next week, they're going to need all the help they can get. But overall, solid on the defensive end for the Eagles. Forced turnovers when they needed to. And for the most part, I mean, Josh Jacobs had an okay game. I think he had 70 some odd yards rushing, but not a bad defensive effort. Now, on the other side, the offense, they seemed skittish and out of sync after the fumble that Jalen Hurts had. And I don't know. I know on one of the text chains I was in, people are like, "Oh, there he goes." I don't think he was concussed or anything like that. I just think he played a little bit more close to the vest. I think the play calling once again was suspect, just because a long run, like a run on 3rd and long or 2nd and long, worked against the Giants doesn't mean it's going to work every time. The one sequence where it was like first, I think, in 25, and they ran the ball and then threw the 10-yard pass on 2nd down. I would have liked to see those plays reversed. Not a good game offensively coming out of the bye, but credit to the Packers defense on that as well. Didn't really look AJ's way too much at all. Got him involved a little bit early, but I did notice a couple plays where he was open. Devontae is an absolute stud. No questions about that. But despite the questions with the play calling, despite the just inability to consistently move the ball and sustain drives, when the game was on the line, QB1 came through when he had to. It was a beautiful pass to Devontae. Devontae made an excellent catch. And say what you want about Jalen, but we were talking in the Clashing Conferences chat yesterday, and one of the prevailing thoughts is always, oh, well, Jalen is only good because of his sporting cast. He can't carry a team. He won that game on offense because he had to. So hopefully that changes that narrative a little bit. I got a question, Nick Sirianni throwing the deep fade or post to AJ on fourth down. Like, why not take a delay of game penalty and then punt it and pin them deep? Because it almost came back to bite them in the ass. Luckily, Brandon McManus was getting a little bit older and was a little bit banged up. But a win is a win. I will take it. Like I said, they don't all have to be pretty. There's going to be games like this in a 17-game season, and especially against one of the top teams in the NFC on the road, the ugly wins count just as much. Hey, sometimes you got to take one for the team and go home with the non-attractive person. And that to me was what this game is. The Eagles win it ugly. They were the better team. I don't think the distance between the Eagles and the Packers is really that big, though. And so they need to clean up some things, especially heading into this big game now Sunday night against Detroit, because Detroit's going to come in. They're still pissed off about last year. They're going to come in ready to show who the best team in the NFC is. So the Eagles need to be ready. But we'll take it. We move on. And that does lead us to today's question of the day. Who is your GOAT of the game? I think you got to throw Devontae in there. I think Jalen Phillips made a huge difference. Nolan Smith being back made a whole big difference. And Nakobe Dean was outstanding as well. So who's your GOAT of the game? I got to go Nolan Smith. I think him being back really provided that pass rush with a spark they needed. And, I mean, not taking anything away from Jalen Phillips. Not doing that at all. But I think the combination of those two and having him back really helped this team out. So what do you think? 267-495-8531. That is the Back to the Future voice and text line. Who is your GOAT of the game? Obviously, we'll have more on this tomorrow. And as I have time to kind of rewatch and watch some of the post-game interviews and things like that. But who's your GOAT of the game? 267-495-8531. Eagles with a 10-3 win out in Green Bay. A place they always seem to kind of play games like that anyway. So I will take that. Now we get ready to turn the page. It's already Tuesday. We got to turn the page to the Detroit Lions. All right, Sixers in action tonight. They take on the Celtics at home. Looking forward to that. Huge game for them. Seems like they played the Celtics a lot early in the season, which would like to, I guess it's better to play them early in the season before Tatum possibly comes back. But Sixers Celtics tonight down at the X. And then yesterday's trivia question, we talked about Paul Palmer having himself a day. He came in second in 1986 in the Heisman Trophy voting. Who won it that year? That would be Vinny Testaverde from the U, the Miami Hurricanes in 1986. And we all know how that season ended for the Hurricanes. They lost to Penn State for the national championship. All right, some quick housekeeping. Be sure to follow me on social media at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. Like, subscribe, review, comment, all that other good stuff. And then just a reminder that the gift and food drive kicks off in less than a week, teaming up again with the Matty Ann Dixon Community Cupboard. Looking for gift cards, food donations. More details will be coming. But obviously, we're going to do the reverse advent calendar, which kids love that. It's a good way to get your kids involved as well. And then, of course, Happy Veterans Day to all of the veterans out there, whether you've served, you're currently serving. We all owe you the biggest debt of gratitude that we'll never be able to repay. Thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you do. I appreciate it. Your courage, your fighting, and your just dedication to this country allows guys like me to sit here in my office and talk Philly sports. So I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. If you are a veteran listening, thank you. I appreciate it. If you know someone, I know a couple people out there have their parents or uncles are veterans. Do me a favor and thank them for me, because again, it's one of those days that this is a very important one for me, because these people go out there and fight for our freedoms without even being asked, and they do it because it's something they want to. So thank you to all the veterans, past and present, out there. Truly, truly appreciate it. And if you are someone with a veteran in your family and maybe they paid the ultimate sacrifice, my condolences to you. But again, thank you for their service as well. Whether you're coaching Little League, crushing your fantasy league, or just rolling up to a bachelor party like a Philly legend, Lotwin Custom Hype Chains bring the energy. Fully customizable, totally unforgettable, and guaranteed to turn you into the MVP of the moment. Great for teams, groomsmen, or anyone who wants to show off with some serious swagger. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD, and get 10% off your own custom hype chain. Lotwin, let's get hyped together. All right, today is November 11th, so let's get into it. First, we're going to hop in the Wayback Machine and go all the way back to 1930. And on this day in 1930, Philly's first NHL team opened their season. The Philadelphia Quakers lost to the New York Rangers 3-0 on this day. Now, the Quakers originally were the Pittsburgh Pirates. They moved to Philly in part due to the Depression. Their arena wasn't what it needed to be. It was a cost-saving move, so they moved to Philly. The Philadelphia Quakers played at the old Philadelphia Arena at 46th and Market. They struggled through a tough season. They went 436-4. They were outscored by 108 goals. It was the lowest win total as far as percentage-wise, lowest win percentage until the 1974-75 Washington Capitals. Unfortunately, hockey was short-lived in Philly as the team folded after the season, and it would be 36 years before Philadelphia or Pittsburgh would get an NHL team. But the Philadelphia Quakers opened their season on this day back in 1930, 3-0 loss to the New York Rangers, first ever NHL team in Philly. And quick little side note, if you're interested in hockey history, you can go to Philly Goat and get an old school style Philadelphia Quaker jersey and sweatshirt inspired by this team. Be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. But the Philadelphia Quakers opened their season, and you could get a replica Quaker jersey. They're actually pretty cool, I must say. So go to Philly Goat, check that out. But the Philadelphia Quakers, one season, and then it wouldn't be until the 1967-68 season that hockey would return to Philly. All right, let's fast forward to 1972. Sixers beat the Rockets 114-112. John Block had 31 points, 14 rebounds. Leroy Ellis had 24 points and 14 rebounds. You might be saying, who are those guys? Exactly. This was the Sixers' first win of the 1972-73 season after dropping their first 15 games of the season. They would go on to only win 8 other times that year, going a league worst 9-73, worst stretch in team history. I shouldn't even say by a long shot, because the 2015 Sixers won 10 games. So they were flirting with history. But the 72 Sixers won their first ever game of the season today. 114-112 over the Rockets. And they went right on to another losing streak en route to a 9-73 season. All right, so that 72-73 Sixers team only won 9 games. That is not the worst in NBA history. So that is today's trivia question. Which NBA team broke the Sixers record for fewest wins in a season? They did this in the 2011-2012 season. Hit me up on the Discord, Back to the Future, any of my social media. But which team broke the 72-73 Sixers record for infertility by only winning, I believe they won 7 games. So it kind of shattered it if you really think about it. But which team did that during the 2011-2012 season? Fast forward to 1979, and then the current NHL team in Philadelphia, the Flyers, beat the Canucks 5-4. Rick McLeish had a hat trick. It was his 11th of his career. He also scored his 550th point in the process. He would end his career with 12 career hat tricks, all with the Flyers. That would later be broken by Tim Kerr, who has 17th. And then that Flyers team in 79-80 they went on that ridiculous 35-game unbeaten streak. This was the 12th straight game they had without a loss. And then finally today, 2001, the Eagles built a 31-10 lead at halftime en route to a 48-17 win over the Vikings at the Vet. Donovan McNabb threw for 223 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of them to James Thrash, 1 to tight end Mike Bartram. He also added a rushing touchdown. Deuce Staley and Carell Buckholder also added rushing touchdowns. The defense, though, forced 4 turnovers, had 6 sacks, including 2.5 by Hugh Douglas. I remember this game well because this was I believe it was a Monday night game, or Monday or Sunday night game, and I was secretly excited when Dante Culpepper threw a late touchdown pass for fantasy purposes. But on this day in 2001, Eagles beat the Vikings 48-17 at the Vet. Donovan and the defense led the way for the Birds. And then finally today, continuing our look at the sports page from this day in the past 25 years, continuing our look back at the first 25 years of this century. Today we're going to go back to 2012 and the Inquirer Sports section from November 11th, 2012. The big story on the front page, Penn State blew a 14-point halftime lead, losing to Nebraska 32-23. The Penn Quakers clinched a share of the Ivy League title. The Eagles were set to take on the Cowboys in what really was the losers' season would be over. The Eagles were in the midst of a 4-12 season, which proved to be Andy Reid's last year. That did lead to a lot of speculation in the paper that day on who the Eagles' next coach would be. A lot of people were looking at John Gruden to come back to Philadelphia, but we all know it ended up being Chip Kelly. Sixers beat the Raptors 93-83. Temple football lost to Cincinnati, losing their 4th straight. And one of the feature stories in the paper that day, Jeff Ruland, who was the head coach of the University of the District of Columbia, was in town to take on the Villanova Wildcats, was interviewed and was questioned about Andrew Bynum's knee and the injury, and he reflected a lot on his own knee injury when he came to Philly, so he said he kind of got it, but that's what was going on in 2012. Not really a good day other than the Sixers winning in Philadelphia sports history. And that is what was going on in the Philadelphia Inquirer sports page back in 2012. On this day, though, in 2001, Eagles beat the Vikings 48-17. Donovan and the defense led the way. Back in 1979, Rick McLeish scored his 550th point, his 11th career hat trick as the Flyers beat the Canucks 5-4. And then, of course, the 72-73 Sixers win their first game on this day in 1972. And the first NHL team in Philadelphia, the Quakers, opened their season today with a 3-0 loss to the Rangers. It was short-lived, but hockey was in Philly long before the Flyers. Don't forget to answer the trivia question, which team broke the Sixers record for most or least amount of wins in a season back in 2011-2012. And then, of course, who is your GOAT of the Eagles game? I'm going Nolan Smith, but who do you got? You can pick Devontae. I would be fine with that. Nakobe Dean, Jalen Phillips. I think they're all fair game. But who do you got as the Eagles beat the Packers 10-3? We'll have more on this game. Start turning the page to the Rams. Of course, stay tuned later this week for a new Brotherly Birds breakdown where we get recap. Not a lot to recap in this game, to be honest. It was a good defensive battle. So should be a lot of time spent on the state of the NFC and looking ahead to the Lions, because as of right now, without checking the standings, looking off the top of my head, I believe the Eagles have the number 1 seed. It might be tied, and I don't know the tiebreakers with the Seahawks, but it's going to be a wild run down the stretch. So buckle up. All of these wins count. Doesn't matter how they look. We're not here for style points. You're not impressing the voters for the BCS or anything like that. This is all about wins and losses. So the Eagles leave Green Bay on Monday Night Football with the win. Also, in all honesty, remember, mental health, have a check-in with yourself, check in with your friends, make sure they're okay, make sure you're okay, and have those honest conversations and have the courage. It's extremely important. And as I said, reach out to me if you need to, and I can help you any way I can, or at least point you in the right direction. Happy Veterans Day. Truly, thank you from the bottom of my heart to everybody who is serving, has served. If you have someone in your family or someone close to you who has served, make sure you give them a big thank you and a hug today and tell them I appreciate all they've done. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for November 11th, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. I'll get it out there. Go have yourselves a Victory Tuesday. Stay warm. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.